showing out, making moves, no doubt. FFA pride, it's what we're all about. From classroom dreams to real world flair, we got the stories you won't find anywhere. Beyond the jacket where the stories unfold, voices of the future, fearless and bold. Tune in now, let the passion ignite. It's more than a jacket, it's a way of life. Beyond the jacket where passion meets purpose.
Welcome back to Beyond the Jacket, where we highlight amazing FFA members that go beyond the jacket with their supervised agriculture experience projects, and today is no different. Today we get to meet with Hannah and dive into her SAE and FFA experience. Hannah, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your FFA background.
Yeah, I originally started my FFA journey in middle school at Lake Placid Middle FFA, and eventually carried that into Lake Placid Senior FFA. When I first started out, I was encouraged by another member to explore the livestock side of SAEs. I've got my first SAE as I believe a seventh grader, and I started my first swine project for the county fair. And it opened up a lot of doors for me to be able to explore both livestock SAEs and a lot of other skills to grow that I've very much utilized today.
That's exciting. I started in 4-H, so kind of similar, but I showed pigs before dabbling into the cattle side of things, and it really gave me skills there to hone in on. And then I got to do different FFA experiences and learn all the different types of SAEs before really solidifying the one I chose eventually. Did you carry pigs on into high school, or did you switch SAEs?
I did. I had commercial swine projects throughout to my senior year. I did move on to doing them at the South Florida Fair. My county fair was kind of limited in the amount of animals that you were allowed to show and exhibit. So I had swine projects for the South Florida Fair, and then I had both commercial heifer and steer projects for my county fair.
Wow, that's exciting. You were busy.
I tried to have as many as I could to keep myself busy, and my senior year I was actually able to have an additional swine project that I did show at some jackpot shows, but I actually was able to donate all of the meat to a local food bank.
That's super cool and exciting. Which kind of shows that you got involved on your community level through the fair as well as giving back. I think that's a soft skill that FFA provides that's not super highlighted, if you will.
No, and I was trying to figure out how can I better utilize what I am doing to have that greater community outreach. And it was a really easy way and an easy addition into what I was already doing to have that community give back. The hog was donated to me, and I was able to raise money to cover the processing costs. So it was really a great experience to see how the community could come around that project to also better reach out to the community.
That's super exciting. So I know you touched a little bit beforehand that a friend helped you get involved in your livestock SAEs, but was livestock and agriculture like a family tradition, or were you involved in agriculture prior to FFA, or was FFA your first experience in the industry?
So growing up in Lake Placid, you are absolutely surrounded by agriculture. It's a very heavily citrus industry, as well as some cattle and some other crops as well. I did originally start in 4-H, but it was, every little girl wants to be a horse girl. Quickly realized that, hey, there's a lot more to explore out there. And I had a friend that was in 4-H as well as FFA who encouraged me to join FFA and explore the livestock side. I did honestly get a lot of pushback from my parents first starting of, are you sure you can handle this? You know what happens at the end of these projects? And had some family friends be like, no, I think she can handle it. I definitely think this is something that she would enjoy.
Yeah, I could definitely say, when you're at the county fair and individuals come to you and they're like, how could you do that? You give them a name. They're eventually a pet. But I think that's something really special that 4-H and FFA teaches students of all ages is that the end goal is for that animal to be processed for meat to provide for whoever so buys that animal. And we know that we gave those animals the best life possible while we did have them. If you think of normal production agriculture animals, they don't get bubble baths or get taken on walks or brushed daily. And I think we as students who get to be a part of that tradition give those animals the best life possible before being processed for meat. And then you're learning where your food comes from. So it's kind of a win-win situation. So walk us through what went through raising and showing your pigs. Was feeding your favorite part, training? Really talk about the process that you enjoyed.
So I'd say one of my favorite aspects was the training aspect, being able to prepare them not only for county show, but also having the opportunity to go to different jackpots and learn from other people, learn different judges' opinions, and be able to gather all of that information and apply it to the actual project to get that feedback during the project. Instead of waiting till the end of it and waiting to have to apply all of that till the next year. That was one of my favorite parts, was being able to go to those different jackpots, go to those different prospect shows, and meet other people, learn from everyone else. Especially at the county fair level, there's not necessarily a lot of plethora of knowledge, but being able to go to those different shows, I learned a lot from other people that had gone to a lot of those larger shows and was being able to apply those to my projects as well.
I agree. I enjoyed the training the pigs. I always felt like that was actually harder than steers, because like you didn't have a lead rope to lead your hog, and that was something I think it built more character within myself than it did within the pig. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite memories as well. On the flip side, what is like some of the biggest challenges you encountered while raising your SAE projects?
So I was not fortunate enough to be able to keep my animals at home. So I did have to utilize different school barns, and also our county 4-H was really great. And they were able to renovate the old horse barn and allow us to keep different projects there, which was really great for me because I had so many projects that it was easier for me to keep them at that county barn. And it was a little bit of a drive, and I was there a lot of times by myself. So I think that built a lot of character in myself of how can I problem solve and how can I figure this one out by myself? And it really created that independence of, hey, how can I be quick on my feet and how can I figure this out? You know, I've got to get 2 cows and a pig to the vet, and one of them needs to come off to get on the scale. Where am I going to load them in the trailer? And is that going to haul efficiently? Do I need to create a counterbalance? So it was a really great, while it was challenging to not have my animals at home, I think it created a lot of skills of time management that ultimately you have to have as an adult. And I'm so extremely grateful for having those challenges.
Lacey, our co-host that normally is on the show, she just couldn't be with us today, which we miss her, but she always does a great job at explaining how FFA members have those soft skills of responsibility. They talk well, they're problem solvers, and the list goes on, really. And it's crazy to think that the point that your barn wasn't at home and you had to travel taught you that much, which I think outsiders don't really get to see. And I can definitely attest to the problem solving part, an animal sick, hauling a trailer, getting to and from, time restraints. It's a lot on a student, but you learn so many valuable life skills that don't just benefit you in high school or middle school, they carry on into your adult life. And now that I'm a freshman in college, I see that even more, that time management is super important, because I'm already struggling with that. But anyway, we won't go into the college stuff at the moment. You said at the beginning you raised some show heifers and some steers kind of towards the end of your FFA experience. Tell us some about that SAE.
Yeah, once I got into high school, I want to do more. I want to do as much as I can. And knowing that I only have a short amount of time to do this, I wanted to take full advantage of that. And I first started out with a commercial heifer. I was I was surrounded by a lot of great mentors that really helped me through this process. And they really suggested, hey, why don't get something that's old enough so you can breed it and it can be a bred heifer when you go to sell it, just adding more value to that project and being able to add that. Again, looking at costs and profit, it's a small cost to input to be able to breed that animal, but you're getting a huge return on the backside of it and also providing a benefit for those that do purchase the animal. And I will say that animal really tried my patience. It tried everything about me. That was the most difficult animal I ever had that for training and halter breaking. She tried me every single day. And at the end of it, it was just a really great moment to be able to see that all that hard work really did mean something. It was actually great because she was bred, and I was able to sell her back. But I think the heifer projects were always great because I could see, who bought them and what happened to them afterwards. My senior year heifer, unfortunately, she did pass away a couple years ago, but a family friend bought her, and it was interesting to see. I get those texts, hey, look, she just had a new calf, even in college. So I thought it was so great to be able to see that impact still last even after I was gone. For my commercial steer projects, I thought that was the most interesting aspect part of those was learning the different feeding, and saying, hey, where is my animal currently at and what endpoint are we trying to get to, and crowdsourcing different ideas to be able to make sure that animal is finished. And one year I had a fluffy cow. I'm not sure where his hair came from, but trying to learn how to fit an animal coming from a county that does slick shows. That was such an interesting experience, just learning that whole separate world that I wasn't previously exposed to.
Absolutely, Hannah. You touched on how people have helped you throughout your journey, and that's something really unique in the agriculture industry to me, is that even if you don't know somebody from X county, they're the first to help you if your heifer gets away from you, or they notice something in the show ring that your heifer or your steer needs to be deeper bodied. This is what you can feed to do that. And it's so unique that you might not know them from Adam, but that day they reached out in Olive Branch and were like, let me help you, let me teach you. And once you gain those skills from others, then you can go on and teach those to younger members of some sorts. And I think that's really unique. It creates a ripple effect. And as far as the fitting thing goes, my family has always raised slick cattle, and I always wanted to show the big fluffy steers with all the hair. And I remember my first time clipping out a calf over the summer for a jackpot show. I live in Fort Pierce, so not too far down the road from Lake Placid. And when I clipped him, he looked like he had a very bad clip job. I mean, all the divots, all my pretty hair that I'd worked for just went right down the drain. So obviously there's lots of challenges in that project, but so many benefits at the end of the day. Do you have like a proudest moment between either showing swine or cattle that you truly remember and hold dear to your heart even today?
Yeah, so my senior year, it was a couple of days before the county fair. My steer stepped on my foot. It happens so many times. You don't think anything of it. I wear the rubber boots. Is that the best thing to wear? No, but I'm willing to take the risks. Stepped on my foot, didn't think much about it. And I'm like, wow, this really hurts. Sat down, pulled my boot off, and it was swollen the size of a softball. It was black and blue. It was not a pretty sight. And mind you, it's a couple of days before fair. I go to the doctor and they recommend that I wear like an air boot. Had to put a trash bag over it and vet wrap it, made it look the best I could and tried to keep it clean. But having to show my animals with that boot on and going into showmanship and the judge being like, there's no excuse for anyone out there. If she can get in the ring with a boot on her foot, there is no excuse for anyone out there. And it just complimented me on how much dedication I had to this project, that I wasn't going to let something small like that hold me back.
It's crazy how we're similar in so many different ways. I broke my foot, same scenario. All the bones that connect your toes to your foot were severed. My heifer stepped on my foot in the show ring and I fell and it broke. And then afterwards in showmanship, she was stuck. I was so excited because, once again, one of those challenging animals, once they're stuck, you don't want to move them because there's no guarantee they'll go back to the way you had them. So I let her stand on that broken foot for the remainder of the class. And the next following weekend, I was showing in my boot. So unfortunately, that stinks for the time being, but those memories are so important. And once again, no excuses. If you can get out there and do that, you can really do anything. A little while ago on a question, I want to come back to it. You were talking about finish, ensuring that animal is fed well to make sure you're providing quality meat for the buyer. Animal welfare is something really important in the livestock industry, in the show ring, in production, ag. Talk a little bit about how you incorporated animal welfare into your projects.
Yeah, animal welfare is something I still hold dear to my heart. It's a part of my everyday life, not just at work, but also at home. I always strive to make sure that I was feeding my animal the best quality feeds, making sure that the pen that it was living in, it was clean. I had fresh shavings, I had fresh water. Something, unfortunately, that being in a barn outside, there's often rats. So having to deal with making sure that there's no pests and making sure that those aren't affecting my animals as well. Having the vet come anytime I think there's anything wrong with my animal, that quick phone call. It might be able to quick fist, or it might be like, hey, I need to come out and look at that animal now. But always making sure that if I didn't know, I reached out to the resources that could tell me, because I didn't want to go into this project guessing this is an animal and it deserves the best care that it can. And if I don't know how to best treat that animal or in that specific scenario, I want to reach out to make sure that I am doing the correct thing. It was something that I did gain more skills as I went on. But when you first start out, you don't know anything about how to take care of a pig, how to take care of a cow. You might know how to take care of a dog or cat. Some of those things might apply, but sometimes they don't. And having to reach out when I don't know. I had a pig that unfortunately was very sick when I was in middle school, and having to reach out to different vets of trying to figure out, hey, how can I best treat this animal? I was fortunate enough to be able to treat that animal so it was in good health and condition to be able to take it to fair. But it was hard watching other members have to best realize, hey, it's not what's best for this animal to continue treating it. And unfortunately, you do have to put some animals down sometimes. And it's the harsh reality that what is best for that animal's welfare may not always be what you want it to be.
Absolutely. That's such a big misconception in our industry, and the show ring is withdrawal dates, kind of like you were saying. Like, we always want to make sure we're treating that animal. If they're sick, obviously we want to get them the correct medical support so that they can be healthy again. But with those withdrawal dates to ensure human consumption health, sometimes we're not able to do so. And at a young age, learning that's so important so you can make informed consumer decisions down the road. I love talking about all of your SAEs, but when you filled out the guest form to come on our podcast and I was reading all the responses, you said that your time in the ag classroom helped you develop your future career, which I assume you're in now or were a little while ago. So why don't you tell our listeners about the unique career that stemmed from your time in the classroom?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to the University of Florida and study animal sciences. I went in with a lot of kids do, thinking that they're going to be a veterinarian. I very quickly learned in taking chemistry that was going to be a very difficult challenge for me if I decided to stay with it. I took chemistry 3 times, and the third time decided if I pass this, I'm going to switch tracks just a little bit. So I changed from animal biology to food animal, which it was really interesting to take a lot of those classes to kind of see the other side of the production agriculture that I was once a part of with those different animal projects. I went through college not necessarily knowing exactly what I would be doing, and I had the opportunity to do an internship working with seals and sea lions at the New York Aquarium. Growing up in Florida, you go to SeaWorld, you see the shows, you see the different animals, and I had once thought about my time as a younger child at SeaWorld, and I was like, wait, I can use my degree for this, and this can be a career for me. finished up my senior year, did another internship with Dolphins before getting my first paid position working with Dolphins. I had a brief time out of the industry, but I am back into the industry, currently working with Dolphins again. And it is so interesting to see. You would think these two sides have absolutely nothing in common, but it's so interesting to see how the crossover between some of those soft skills and even some of the things like body condition scoring. Cattle, you have a fat index, but Dolphins, you have a blubber index. So it was really interesting to see how similar these two things are that you would think have nothing in common with each other.
That's insane. I mean, I used to live on the coast, the whole 9 yards, but I have never had any experience with marine animals. And it's so unique, like you were saying, like the fat index of finish, now blubber index, and how that matters. Like, as a production ag kid, I would have never thought that mattered. So you're teaching me stuff even today on the show. I know you said that you did certain internships throughout college and now you're in a paid career position working in that. What do you do? Like, what is your job description? How do you work with a dolphin? Heck, I mean, you can't put a halter on a dolphin.
So I did that first internship and it kind of opened up that whole world for me. A lot of people in this industry, they grow up thinking this is their dream job. This is what they want to do for life. Me going into college, this was nowhere on my horizon of a career path for me. I thought I was going to be in agriculture. I grew up in an agriculture community. I was doing activities in middle school and high school and even into college that surrounded agriculture. So this was a whole new world for me stepping into it, that I learned a lot in my first year in the industry. And I am so grateful for that first year because I learned so much about the industry and so much about myself and how those different skills could apply. It really goes to show the different relationships you have with the animals. Like you said, there is no halter putting on a dolphin. They're in the water, they can swim and they can go where they want to. So it is really a testament to the relationship that you have to build with each individual animal to be able to work through different things. There is a whole science behind training that I had absolutely no idea about, that I've learned so much about, of operant conditioning, classical conditioning, how you can use different reinforcers. And looking back on my time working with animals through FFA and seeing how I was utilizing the different science of it, just having no idea that I was applying those different things, and just how important animal welfare is in my industry. It's so extremely important. Just like agriculture can have that spotlight on them. One bad apple can ruin the bunch for all of them. And that's the same way this industry is. It is such a small industry and it does have a large focus on it just because of the nature of it. And it just shows that you have to advocate for yourself, for your animals, and put yourself out there to advocate for that industry, advocate for those animals, just like you are taught to do in FFA, to be able to teach. And it may not necessarily be direct showing, but it can be just through a conversation of someone and stopping and asking you a question. And I think those conversations really hold close to me of how can I best represent my industry.
I love that answer. It talked to so many different things and I'm learning so much. But your point about educating the public is so essential. The fact that just through those common everyday conversations where somebody asks you a question, you're able to be a voice for our industry. For so long, agriculture, and I don't know if like marine agriculture, or even if that's the right term for that, goes hand in hand, but we weren't the best voice for ourselves. We weren't the best educator to the public about what agriculture practices are doing for them as the consumer, for the environment, for the animal, so on and so forth. And if one person could just speak up and tell the facts or educate one consumer or one public person, then it creates a ripple effect and then they can become knowledgeable and educate others. And I think that's so special in our industry and something you get to do every day. And I think another thing that we haven't touched on much in our podcast is the unique careers that FFA can lead you to. And yours is definitely out of the box and so special. And that I I'm in awe of the things that you get to do. What's a piece of advice? Obviously, you've gone through college. Now you're in a career field, but you look back on those FFA skills that you've learned. What is something that you would tell a younger FFA member looking to the future?
I would say don't limit yourself to what you feel comfortable with. Try different things. You may never know what you like, and even in trying something you may not like, you're going to develop skills that you will look back on and utilize later. I look back on doing parliamentary procedure and doing public speaking, and it's something that I directly utilize every single day in my job. So even if you're doing something you may not think you might enjoy, you're developing skill sets that you will look back on and realize just how valuable they were to build at a young age.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Do you have any last points for our listeners, how they can connect with you, learn more about your industry? Anything you want to share before we wrap up?
I would say being open to any type of experience. You may never know where life leads you and what time or place you may utilize those skills. Even if something doesn't interest you, you're going to build skills that are going to be useful in some way, shape, or form. And I can look back on my time in FFA and the skills that I developed. Some of them I use indirectly and some of them I use directly, which I can look back on those times and see how valuable that experience was. And I am so extremely grateful for that community and the relationships I've built that I still use today.
Well, thank you, Hannah, for telling us about your FFA journey and how it's taking you outside of the classroom into your career. And I was so happy to speak with you and learn about your journey beyond the jacket.